What is up, YouTube? Today we're going to be installing a sound system in our truck. We already have put in a head unit just because I wasn't sure if the wiring was all jacked up or not, and the wiring is actually good. We were able to salvage that. Problem is, all the speakers are blown, so we'll check that out. And this is what we're going to be installing. So our goal here was to get the cheapest sound system that we could. This whole thing was $86.84, and hopefully it's going to sound pretty good. So we got a Boss head unit. We have already installed that just to make sure that the sound system worked. We got two 6x9 Kenwoods 400 watt and two 6x6.5 or 6x6.5s for the rear. So these are your door speakers and these are the rear speakers. Now right off the bat I see 200 watts 4-channel. So these speakers are going to be underpowered because we're not using a amplifier, but they're definitely going to sound good, and they're definitely going to sound a lot better than what the thing currently sounds like. So let's check that out. And on a side note, we did replace several parts in the engine bay. I just didn't record it because space was very limited. We replaced our upper and lower radiator hose. We did all new spark plug wires all the way around. We replaced the distributor, and that was fun because it's quite difficult to see. Let's see if I can even see. Do you see that little hint of blue? Where is it? We had it for a second there. You see that hint of blue in there? That's the distributor. There's your distributor wires. So we did replace the distributor cap, rotor, and the wires, and it's just running even better with that. And if you look back here, you can also see that we put in new heater lines, inlet and outlet, and we ran those to the proper places. So we now have hot heat and cold air conditioning. Anyways, let's get back to the sound system. So here we have our nice Boss head unit. And when I say nice, I mean for the price, $29.99. It sounds awesome. It is missing a CD player. However, it does have USB in, aux in, and Bluetooth. So let's hook up the Bluetooth and I'll show you how it sounds with the stock speakers. Now, just for testing's sake, we do have our volume all the way maxed out. We're going to be listening to 1550 by RGA. Volume on the radio is set to 20. Let's see how it sounds. So the sound is there. It's not very good. There's definitely some distortion. I think both of our speakers are blown, or maybe all four of them. They're blown on the low end, but it sounds okay. But we're definitely going to upgrade that. And if you're interested in hearing a full-on comparison, I will post that at the very end of the video. We'll do the entire song with the stock speakers, and then the entire song with the new speakers. So check that out if you're interested. You know, the speakers in this thing aren't terrible, but they're certainly not good. So let me play a different song with a little more bass, and we'll put the mic up to the speaker, and you'll hear a lot of distortion. So we'll do that now. For me, that's not good enough. So let's go ahead and install these Kenwoods. If you're doing this job yourself, make sure you do disconnect the battery. Let me tell you a story. Back in the day, my friend got a sound system for his birthday. We were putting it in his 93 Celica, and I was like, hey man, don't you think you should disconnect the battery? He's like, nah, it'll be fine. Well, installs the radio, drives, no problem. And we took the car to the local 7-Eleven, which was like an 1/8 of a mile away. Well, long story short, he spent his birthday pushing his car home because he fried his distributor. So let's disconnect that battery and get to work. Now, I've already done the other side. This truck actually does not have stock speakers. I guess I should have expected that with the obvious the subwoofer wiring, but it did have some old kickers in there, but these kickers have kicked the bucket and they're carrying a lighter. Smoking's bad for you. So we're gonna take this one off and replace it. And this job is very simple. All you need is a Phillips head screwdriver, a new speaker, some spade connectors, and a crimper, and that's pretty much it. It would help to have some sort of pry tool. So let's get to it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take off 2 screws that are located right in here, and there's 1 screw right here. So let's do that. I do recommend rolling the window all the way down before you do this job, but it's not such a hassle that it has to be that way, so we're going to leave it up. Alright, so we got our 3 screws taken off, and we're going to put them in our little cubby here. We're going to take this whole thing out. Leave our screws in there so we know where to go when it's time to put them back in. Once that's done, you're going to want to pull on the door panel, and you will feel where there's resistance, and that's where the clips are, and you just want to pull straight out. Hold the frame, hold the door frame, find your clip, and give it a nice firm tug. Be aware that these clips may break. There are plenty of aftermarket options to replace the clips. Now once you have all your clips removed and you can pull the panel, there's 2 things preventing us from, or 3 things preventing us from removing this panel completely. It's your door handle, your lock, and some connections over here, as well as a connection for your window switches. So pull up over the door lock. Door handle is a little bit tricky. Lift, kind of just work it out. Work it through the hole in the panel. Now that you've got that out, there's some connections in here. Let me give you a better camera angle. The passenger side of this vehicle actually only has 1 clip. The driver's side has 2, but removing them is pretty much the same thing. It's the white part here. It's very difficult to see. See if I can zoom in on it. That's about as close as I can get you. But there's a little ridged part on the inside of the clip. And if I press on that and pull, I should be able to get the connection out. Just like that. And now our entire panel is free. So let's just put that off to the side for safekeeping. Once that's done, you have access to your speaker. There are 4 screws here. You do not need to take those off. You want to take the screws off that are actually mounting the speaker itself to the door. So there's 4, and we'll just screw them up. There's 1, 2, 3. We'll put these down safely in the floorboard. We're going to support the speaker. Unscrew this last screw. Now it's important to note, if you're doing this job and it has the stock speakers in it, the aftermarket speakers may not have holes that line up. But this material can be drilled into relatively easy. You might even be able to do it with a normal screwdriver. Just press hard and screw it in. And just make sure you're not drilling into the metal of the door. You want to drill into this foam pad here. So now we just remove our panel or our speaker. And this already has spade connectors. So just pull those 2 spades off. There are different sizes, so it's impossible to mix them up. And we have our speaker free. If your vehicle does not have the spade connectors and it has a connection, you can you may need to change that to spade connectors for your particular application. Now Kenwood, even on their $21 speakers, is nice enough to provide screws, some metal clips, and things like that, as well as some extra speaker wire just to make sure you don't have any issues. The nice thing about this speaker wire is that it already has spade connections on it. So what you can do is use these. You can cut your wire, your connection, splice in, and then you would cut an end of these off, splice it in appropriately with solder or a butt connector or crimp connector, and then you have your spade connectors. That job's already done for us, so all we have to do is put in the new speaker. So here's our old 6x6.5 kicker, and here's our new 6x6.5 Kenwood. The magnet on the kicker, quite a bit bigger than the magnet on the Kenwood. But these were probably quite a bit more expensive. So all we have to do is grab our new speaker, get our spade connections, and push them on nice and tight. Put your speaker in the hole. In this situation, the wires are actually not long enough for me to orient the speakers with the wording facing the proper side, but I don't really think that matters. So just lightly place it in there. We're going to grab our screws. And just screw them in. You always want to put all 4 of your screws in, or all of your screws in loose before you tighten them down. If you tighten this one all the way down, it can actually press the speaker outwards. And you don't want that. Okay, now that we have them all in, we can tighten them down. See what I mean? It's pressing up here. It's kind of like the same theory on lug nuts, that you want to tighten them in a star pattern so that you don't have a off balance pressure. Okay, now that it's nice and tight, we'll give it a little wiggle, make sure it's not moving around, and we're good to go. Next thing we need to do is put the panel back on. But before we do that, we're going to grab all these little yellow connectors, we're going to pry them off, we're going to set them in the panel, and then that'll make it a lot easier to put the panel back on the door. So let's do that now. And like I said, these connectors, or these little clips, are likely to break. It's just part of the deal. We'll try not to break them, but if they do, well, our end goal will be to not break so many that we have to go buy more. By the way, this is the wrong tool to use for this job. Definitely want to use a non-marring pry tool. But it's an old truck, and this part of the vehicle is being covered up anyways. We're not going to cause any major damage. If you try to use this at a dealership or a mechanic shop, they'll fire you. All right, we got them all off. Now let's put them back in the panel. All right, here we have our panel, nice and visible and secure. Got all of our old clips. We're gonna put them back in these spots. As you can see, these clips are already in there. That's because they stayed in. And this side is larger, this side is smaller, so installing was just pressing it in and locking it into place. Just like that. We'll do that all the way around. We're missing 1, 2, 3 clips total. So I'm gonna make sure that I didn't lose any. May have just been already broken and missing, but we'll be right back. All right, now we have all available clips back in our panel and we're ready to put it back on. It's as simple as getting it over the door lock, getting it over the door handle, plugging in your connector, and then pressing in all of your plastic clips. Okay, so our door handle went through, our connection's back in, our door lock is back on. Now we just need to line up the metal, the yellow clips with the door frame itself and press it in. All right, let's go ahead and put our pieces back in. We'll start with our little holder here. Slap it in there. Get your screw. Again, we're not tightening both of them, or one of them down until we have the other one in there. Just makes life easier. There we go. Now the last thing we have to worry about before we're done is this screw right here. And we're done. She's nice and solid, brand new speakers. Good job. So let's do the rears now. The rear speakers are a little bit easier to get to, but a little bit harder to set up. And you will need a T15 to use the existing speaker bracket or mount that comes with the stock unit. So let's look at where it is and how to take it off. Go ahead and remove or loosen the very last screw in the trim for the side of the door. With the back seat lowered and that trim piece down here, that screw removed, our speaker is right in here. We should be able to work this whole piece loose. Now we're not going to take it off because the seat belt is attached up here and you need to take that off as well. We're just going to kind of move this out of the way and work on it like that. Now that we have access to our speaker, there's going to be a screw right here and a screw on the other side as well, unless it's already been taken off. There may just be one screw. Phillips said. So just remove that. Put your screw somewhere safe so you don't lose it. And now you can remove your speaker. This is very interesting. We've got the OEM speaker. The OEM clip is bypassed and they've just wired it straight to the terminals using the exact same color wire. So we're gonna have to cut this and then I'll show you how to take this mount off so we can put our new speaker in. We did cut that as close to the base of the speaker as possible to give ourselves enough room to work. Somebody has obviously been in this truck before. And strangely enough, they did this on the same, they did the same thing on the other side. And I think the issue they ran into is that they pulled this off and they couldn't figure out how to get the mount off. So but they had already cut the wires, so they just kind of crammed it on there. Check this out. So we'll go ahead and remove this bracket, put it on our new speaker. Then we're gonna have to look at a wiring diagram and we will figure out which one of these is supposed to be the negative and which one's supposed to be the positive. And I'll come back. But first, I'll show you how to take this off. And this is where your T15 comes into play because in this stock mounting bracket, there are 4 T15s, 1, 2, 3, 4, that you have to remove to get the old speaker out. And we need to use this bracket because it helps keep it flush. So let's go ahead and take those off. Once you got your 4 screws off, you have to force this top piece out, and you may need to use a flat bladed screwdriver to do so. There are 2 black little clips here. I'm not sure if you can see those right here. They kind of extend over the edge of the speaker and hold it in. Just make sure make sure you don't break those. So let's pry this thing off now. Just a cover. You can throw this away. Now we have access to our speaker and we'll need to do the same thing. Pry it off of our mount. And then glued it in. Just using a little dentist pick to try to break the seal. That's some very sticky glue. All right, so now we have our old speaker out. We can put our new speaker into this mount. So if you look at your 6x9, it has the 4 mounting points, and we want to match those up with the 4 holes in our mount that came off the vehicle. So, should be able to just drop it in and line it up. Make sure that the speaker does go over the plastic clips that I mentioned earlier, or the tabs. All right, and once it's in there, just put your screws back in, and then we'll figure out our wiring issue and go from there. Well, we checked out a wiring diagram, and the wiring diagrams that we found didn't match this truck whatsoever. We've got brown and purple for our ground on the passenger rear, and we have black and brown for the power on the passenger rear. And we just did a test fit. Hooked up our spade connectors to the wires after we spliced or cut a little bit of wiring off of that. Hooked it up to the radio, turned the battery on, and we have power. It's probably not the right way to do it, but that's what we did, and it works. So that is the solution. So let's properly connect these and put it back in. Now, when I said properly connect them, I may have been lying a tiny bit. The proper way to do it would be to solder it, yes. But we're not going to do that. We have these wrapped nice and tight. And I'm going to put some heat shrink tubing over the whole thing. Just like that. And heat it up. You guys know how much I love my heat shrink tubing. Be careful not to hold the lighter on these wires too long because they're very thin and you could burn them out. Alright, so we'll do the same thing for the other side, and now we just got to do the driver's side and we're done. Just in case you're running into the same issues that I am, the driver rear ground is a white wire with a green stripe, and the positive is a white wire with a purple stripe. So let's go ahead and hook this side up. We're ready to start it up. Listen to some music. All right, and that's that. We are ready to power it on, and here's some tunes. Make sure we're on the same volume, 20. Oops. This is an $83 sound system. Head unit, 4 speakers. Bear that in mind. No amp. I think it sounds amazing. gotta say, I'm very impressed. Less than $100, less than $90. And this thing, I can turn it up to where it's uncomfortably loud to my ear and not hear any distortion. So that's awesome. So I will include all the part numbers in the video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This truck is really coming together. It's got Bluetooth on the 2001 Dodge Ram. When we got this truck, didn't even have a way to hook up a battery. So we are definitely making some headway. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching and have a good day.